Kate, I'm going to bring you up now to round out the talks. And while you get sorted, I'm going to give you a lovely intro. And also, it's just been so cool seeing so many of your students in the chat as well, which is who are joining the masters in the next few weeks. So, welcome to all of those new students. Dr. Kate Jones is a professor of ecology and biodiversity and the director of the People and Nature Lab at University College London. As an ecologist with a deep interest in the links between environmental and human health, Kate has pioneered the use of AI, sensor technology, and citizen science to study how ecosystems are adapting to change. She has extensive experience working across diverse biomes, including savannas, tropical forests, dry forests, and coral reefs. We are so pleased to have Kate with us today to guide us through developing end-to-end bioacoustic solutions that empower decision makers in conservation and environmental management.
Wow. Thank you for that introduction, and what a pleasure it is to be here and to be amongst all these amazing speakers as well and colleagues and this amazing chat, which is just crazy. So crazy in a good way, and enthusiasm, lots of enthusiasm. So yeah, so thanks very much for the introduction and the invitation. So this is a kind of bit of a download for my brain, what I've been thinking about over the last few months, year or so, thinking about full stack bioacoustics, and it kind of overlaps with some of the things that Justin was saying before, and hopefully takes it on a bit in more detail with more specific examples. So what do I mean by full stack bioacoustics? And before I get started, I just want to say thank you to my PhD students and amazing colleagues, and also to Ord, who did most of the infographics. So if you like those, then talk to Ord. I just ripped them off basically from her. So just bear that in mind as you're going through. Okay, so what do I mean by full stack bioacoustics? So full stack is a kind of computational term, which means kind of end-to-end processing. But I guess I mean it in a slightly different way. And that is having kind of stakeholder engagement, or the applied question, the question you want to ask at the very beginning of this process, collecting and designing your surveys with that in mind, processing those data, managing it, uploading the data, and then having this ecological insight, and then an action at the end, or a policy decision. And I guess that's what I mean by full stack bioacoustics. And I struggle to think of any examples in the world that have done that successfully. So I would challenge you to think about how we can do this better. Or maybe you've got some examples that you'd like to share. But I'm going to go through some of the things I've been thinking about. Okay, so I'm struggling with my computer now. I'm not sure why. Okay, so this is the way most of us do bioacoustics monitoring. We put stuff out, we collect some data, we transfer the data, we manage the data, panic about how much we have, and then we process it. And at some point later on, we produce some kind of insight and publish a paper, and may or may never get to have an actual policy change. So what are the problems? There are lots of problems with storage capacity and battery capacity in the field. A lot of this is all manual. It's data management is error prone. You need trained statistician, ecologists, often to do the data processing, often with proprietary software. There's a massive time lag between actually getting the results, doing the analysis, and then producing the actual thing. And then the link to policy is even harder. So the question, I guess, is from this kind of session is about how AI could enhance this full stack process. And of course, we've been talking just now about how AI is a massive game changer in thinking about data processing, but also maybe in data acquisition too, and I'll talk about that just in a second. But as we go through this, it'd be interesting to see how we can think about how AI could help with modeling and inference, and also communication, and maybe pulling all the stack together. So one of the examples I wanted to show you was using AI for that middle bit, that processing bit. And this is a study we've been involved with, feels like forever, but maybe only 2018. So we've been working with the Bat Conservation Trust for many years, and we developed the audio moth with Alex Rogers to extend the range to bats. So that's why you can use it for bats now because of this project. We extended that range with Alex, and then we've been developing these pipelines where the Bat Conservation Trust can get an audio moth, give that to a volunteer. They record the sample that the Bat Conservation Trust wants them to in their area. They upload that, and then there's some magic AI that happens, and then the BCT works on the results and produces a policy brief for the government about the trends in bat populations. Now, that's incredibly difficult, and we've been working on this for a while now. We did this bit here in the middle, this red bit, which is this AI pipeline. So the Bat Conservation Trust volunteers can send, post, or upload their recordings to Bat Conservation Trust, and then the pipeline, the AI that we've developed called Bat Detect, goes through to species classification for the UK. And then, these data then go into these national statistics. And that's still, we started that a long time ago, and it's still not completely finished. So it's an incredibly difficult process to get that kind of full stack thing happening. The other issue really is new tech, and thinking about how can new sensors enhance this process. And this is something that some of my PhD students have been working on for the last couple of 6 months or so, thinking about how could you put all of these steps onto one device. So in a better way. So, we have these units deployed: data collection, data processing, data management, data transfer. They're all separate steps usually, but can we just put them onto one single board and then transfer that information, which maybe speed up that ecological insight? So that was the kind of thinking about this, and we've gotten much further on this process in the last few months, but we started thinking about this in about 2018 or so, thinking about how we could actually do it with edge processing in the Olympic Park, where the new campus that we've built is, and the new centre is. So we've got 15 of these. We built 15 of these on Edison chips, so it was quite a while ago. And we have this Bat Detect algorithm operating onto these chips, which give you real-time information about bat detections in the park. So that's been really fun, and been fun to kind of think about how to do this and how to keep those sensors powered over the last 6 years, 7 years or so. And some of the really interesting results from that are quite mind-blowing. So this is the park here. There's a massive Olympic stadium here, and these are the sensors in red. And this is a model of just showing you some of the species which we found. So this is just pipistrelle bats, genus Pipistrellus. And this is just a kind of a graph to show how important each variable is in terms of the activity of those calls. So all the processing happens on the chip, and then just sends us back the observation. So it shows that, there are more bats when it's hot. That's not a Nature paper, but when it's windy, they're not active. But this is really interesting. So when there's a stadium event, they are very decreased in their activity, and it still persists a day after the event as well. So they're really, really impacted by the noise and the light in these situations. So it has been really interesting seeing how you can tell, using these devices and leaving them out, the kind of information you can get. There were 8 million observations since 2017, and I just could not store that much data. So Sarab and I slightly disagree on that point, but we don't keep the data. They're just, the observations are sent to us using this algorithm. Okay, so then this is what we've been kind of working on recently is okay, these Edison chips are now defunct. Raspberry Pis have kind of taken over that space, or there's lots more models than that, but Raspberry Pis seem quite a good platform for doing this. And we've been trying to figure out, well, okay, there are loads of models like BirdNet and Bat Detect. How can we kind of develop a pipeline which is really useful for ecologists to kind of just download onto their Pi and then just tweak the settings and the connection settings. And so it's kind of ready to go, so they can download the package and then set up their Raspberry Pi ready for whatever they want. And it's agnostic in terms of the timings and the model that you put on. So we just tested some of the real world performance of this a couple of weeks ago, and just showing you that this is like what you would normally do with a sensor. You just upload the raw recordings and then get an algorithm to do it in the cloud. It's 51 gigabytes. And then if you do it just on the edge and just upload the actual recordings that you've detected, it's much less data. And then if you just do the observations, it's tiny. And so these are kind of much more sustainable, I would say. But there are also disadvantages, as Sarab was talking about, and the fact that you're wedded to one particular detection algorithm here, and if it changes, then you're changing your observations again. So this is stuff by two of my PhD students, amazing PhD students, Ord and Santiago. So please talk to them if you're interested in that. Okay, so just to finish then, you know, we've talked about this data acquisition, edge processing, talked about the data processing in the cloud with AI, and that they have really been a game changer. But, you know, thinking about how could we do AI to help with model inference, and how can we merge those steps? There's recently a paper on climate change modeling where they used AI to really cut down on the kind of mechanistic modeling that they were doing in climate modeling, and it cut the processing time of that model down by like 80% or something. So like cutting down on the processes that go on, and maybe we could think about how AI could be helping in that model inference. And then finally, just thinking about, you know, things like semantic kernels. They're kind of frameworks where you plug in AI agents like large language models, for example, to go and do some of this stuff. So you could have a semantic kernel, say, that had a language model, and you said to one of the language models, go and do the data acquisition, go and do the data processing, and then after you've done the data processing, come back and do the presentation, do an occupancy model for me, and then and come back, and then you type in how many bats did you see today, and it come back with 5. And, you know, so how can you use these kind of processes to help us understand how to get this full stack processes? So if you're a policymaker, or you're running the park, or you're at BCT, it can really help bring all of this together. Thanks very much.
Okay, can I ask you a question for everyone? What can you dropped in semantic kernels there at the end? Can you give it like a just a quick intro of like a summary of what it is?
I would say, in simple terms, it's a framework. So it's just a kind of frame. It's like a kind of a framework where you've got someone to help you. You've got an idea of how to run a house, and you've got a housekeeper. Like, you live in the Victorian era here, and you've got a housekeeper, and you say to the housekeeper, I want you to send someone to go shopping and bring back all the food. And then the housekeeper says to the cook, I want you to do all the cooking and produce and do a massive pavlova. And then you say to the other, you know, another kind of AI agent, I want you to invite everyone to the party. And then you want to say to another one, I want you to do the cocktails. And then at the end you say, oh, can you provide the end entertainment? And then all you then do to the housekeeper is then say, plan a party and a party happens. So it's kind of like that framework, and these kind of people you replaced with AI agents, like a large language model, to go and you train it to do that task and come back. So it kind of brings all of these things together into one framework, which I think is just mind-blowing. And we've been playing with that in another part of my research lab, which is about predicting disease emergence. So you can use this kind of framework to go and do that model, come back, do the presentation, do that, and then get you as the user to interface with it in a much more simple way.
Okay.
I hope you followed my housekeeping,
Yeah, I think so.
Housekeeping analogy.
I like that Matt said that I like the sound of Kate's party, so I think that's what our takeaway was from that.
I think the cocktails are an essential component.
I think agreed. I think there's quite a few things that you touched on in your talk that I'd like to bring the whole panel in to discuss.